I've got to show you something that will blow your mind, because some of the strangest events in human history, people dancing to death, armies losing to birds, literal floods of beer, weren't random at all. In fact, once you understand why they happened, they become disturbingly logical. History is usually taught like a timeline, dates, names, wars, but that's not how humans experience reality. We experience stories, because stories help us imagine outcomes, avoid danger, and make sense of chaos. And when you start looking at history like a collection of human stories instead of facts, you realize something powerful. Even the weirdest events are just people reacting to pressure. So today we're diving deeper than ever into the strangest historical events. Not just what happened, but why they had to happen. It started with one woman. Frau Trophäa stepped into the streets of Strasbourg and began to dance, not joyfully, not rhythmically, desperately. For hours, then days. People gathered, confused. Then something unexplainable happened. Others joined her. Within a week, dozens. Within a month, hundreds. They danced until their feet bled, until they collapsed from exhaustion. Some died from heart attacks or strokes. Now here's the part that sounds insane. Authorities didn't stop it. They encouraged it. They built stages. They hired musicians, because they believed the only cure was to let it run its course. So what was really happening? This wasn't a disease in the traditional sense. It was likely mass psychogenic illness, a psychological phenomenon where extreme stress manifests physically across groups. And consider the context: famine, disease, economic collapse, deep religious fear. People believed they were cursed, punished, so their bodies responded. This wasn't just dancing. It was collective panic, expressed through movement. Now let's jump forward to a moment that feels like satire. Australia, 1932. Farmers are struggling, crops are failing, and the cause? 20,000 emus. Huge, fast, relentless birds tearing through farmland. So the government sends in the military. With machine guns, what follows is chaos. Soldiers try to line up shots. The emus scatter instantly. They adapt. They split into smaller groups. They move unpredictably. Thousands of bullets are fired. Very few birds are killed. At one point, soldiers mounted guns on trucks, but the terrain was too rough to aim properly. The result? The emus won. And here's what makes this fascinating. It wasn't just a funny failure. It revealed a deeper truth. Humans assume superiority because of technology, but nature doesn't play by our rules. And when we misunderstand a system, even something as simple as a bird can become unbeatable. London, 1814. At the Moo Brewery, a massive vat filled with beer, over 20 feet tall, suddenly bursts. The pressure causes a chain reaction. Other vats collapse. And suddenly, a wave of beer crashes through the streets. Over 300,000 gallons flood the area. Homes are destroyed instantly. People are trapped in basements. 8 lives are lost. Now here's the unsettling part. No one was held responsible. Why? Because at the time, industrial accidents were expected. There were no strict safety standards, no modern engineering regulations. This wasn't seen as negligence. It was seen as inevitable risk. And that's the key lesson. Every era accepts dangers that later generations find unacceptable, which raises a question. What risks are we ignoring today? This might be the strangest one of all. In 897 AD, Pope Stephen VI ordered the body of his predecessor, Pope Formosus, to be exhumed. The corpse was dressed in papal robes, placed on a throne, and put on trial. A dead man, on trial. He was accused of corruption, perjury, and abuse of power. A deacon was assigned to speak for the corpse. Predictably, he was found guilty. His papacy was annulled. His fingers were cut off. His body was thrown into the Tiber River. Now, if this sounds insane, it is. But it wasn't random. It was political warfare. The Catholic Church at the time was deeply entangled in power struggles. This trial wasn't about justice. It was about erasing a rival's legacy, and it shows something timeless. When power is threatened, logic is often the first thing to disappear. In 1816, something terrifying happened. Summer never arrived. Snow fell in June across North America and Europe. Crops failed globally. Food shortages led to riots and famine. People genuinely believed the world was ending, but the cause was invisible to them. The year before, Mount Tambora erupted in Indonesia, one of the largest volcanic eruptions in history. It sent massive amounts of ash into the atmosphere. That ash blocked sunlight, lowered global temperatures, and disrupted weather patterns worldwide. What makes this event so powerful is how disconnected cause and effect were. A volcano on one side of the planet created chaos everywhere else. And it reminds us, we live in systems far bigger than we understand. Boston, 1919. A giant storage tank filled with molasses begins to groan. Residents had reported leaks for months, but nothing was done. Then one day, it bursts. A wave of molasses, moving at 35 miles per hour, rushes through the streets. It's thick, sticky, heavy. Buildings collapse. People are trapped instantly. Rescue is nearly impossible. 21 people die, and the cleanup? It took weeks. The city was literally coated in syrup. Now here's the real story. This wasn't just an accident. It was the result of poor engineering, ignored warnings, corporate negligence. Sound familiar? Because this pattern repeats again and again throughout history. So what do all these events have in common? They look bizarre on the surface, but underneath, they follow patterns. Stress creates chaos. Power creates irrational decisions. Ignored risks lead to disaster. Nature always has the final say. History isn't strange because people were irrational. It's strange because people were predictable under extreme conditions. And if you zoom out, you start to see it clearly. We're not separate from history. We are history. And somewhere, right now, there's an event unfolding that future generations will look back on and say, how did that even happen? If you want more stories like this, where history actually makes sense, watch this next video, because it dives into the most mysterious unsolved events ever recorded. And trust me, those get even stranger.